Hi guys, so today we're going to have hopefully a conversation about European exploration and settlement of America. Ideally, you guys have completed the chart and the Venn diagram about the English, French, Spanish, and to some degree the Dutch exploration and settlement of America. So hopefully this will just be a review. So as we go through this today, I want to make sure that you guys are thinking of the two following items here, something that you will be able to understand, explain, perhaps even write about later on when we start practicing some writing. So, first of all, can you explain the causes of European exploration and colonization of the Americas? Hopefully you can, because you've completed that work that we had over the weekend, but make sure that you have that out as we go as well, so that if there's any additions that you need to make to those charts, that you can get those written down. So make sure that you can explain, as it says here, the causes. This is what we want to focus on. We want to make sure that we understand why, what the causes are for European exploration. We're really going to spend essentially the rest of the year talking about the effects. Compare and contrast the developments and lifestyle of Spanish, French, and English colonies in North America, right? So if we were to have a short answer question that required us to write a response to this, we wouldn't want to talk too much about the politics of these colonies if it's asking us about the lifestyle. We could talk about the politics as it related to the development of the lifestyle, but anything that sort of strays away from the main point here is going to get us into some dangerous territory. So make sure that you keep that in mind as we go through this presentation. So Europe before exploration. We are in the midst of the Renaissance. We have experienced technological innovation sort of beyond anyone's wildest dreams at this point. We're also seeing the growth of nation states, countries, nations that feel a great sense of pride. And that's something that comes along with the Renaissance as well, right? This is the point in time when artists really start putting their name on their work, right? And saying where they are from. I created this and this is the place I am from. So pride of place is really important. So we want to think about the importance of pride of place as we talk about exploration, because each country wants to be able to say, we did this, we accomplished this, right? Look what we have done. So the growth of the nation state is very important. You have England, France, Spain, Portugal, Holland. All of these nations are going to be vying for supremacy. We have Protestant reformations. We have religious wars, the rise of Lutheranism, Calvinism, with this idea of predestination. You have the Catholic Counter-Reformation. Move that. And then the Church of England. And so we don't just have individual countries wanting to say we're the best. We have these new sort of religious communities coming out and saying, no, we are the best. So we want to think about God. What are the impulses driving countries related to God? Glory. What glory and pride can we bring to our nation states? And gold, right? At the end of the day, it always comes back to the money. So let's think about this idea of God, glory, and gold for each of these nations: Spain, France, the Netherlands, or the Dutch, and the English. So Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue in 1492, right? 1492 was a pretty big year in Europe, because also this is the year of the reconquest, as they call it, of Spain, where Muslims and Jews are removed from Spain to make it more They believe Christian. So the context of Christopher Columbus beginning his journey in this year is very significant. In France, in 1534, we have Jacques Cartier, and I fully expect all my French students to be cringing at my pronunciation, so my apologies. He is going to be the explorer that we most associate with France during this time period. For the Dutch, we have Henry Hudson. We can think of the Hudson River Valley in 1609. And in England, we want to make sure that we understand the difference between three types of English colonies: charter colonies, proprietary colonies, and royal colonies. This is Mount Royal. This is Cartier's big sort of, I'm going to say, discovery. This is in Montreal. There's a big statue to him. So a royal colony. A royal colony is also known as a crown colony. It's a type of colonial administration of British overseas territory that are ruled by a governor that is appointed by the monarch. So these are colonies that are going to be governed by the king, essentially, or by somebody appointed by him. They have a governor appointed from England. A proprietary colony is going to be something that is owned by a person or a family. So I think mostly of somebody like William Penn in Pennsylvania. He buys a whole bunch of land. He creates the government that he wants. It's in the name of England, but the governor there is a family, right? Oh, let me go back if I can. Maybe not. Charter colonies, those are going to be I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, charter colonies were the third ones. Those are going to be the ones that we will speak more on later, but just keep them in mind as we go. Okay, so two things that are of significance as we continue to talk about European colonization. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494 and European colonies over here on the right. So keep in mind what this line does. Oh, I don't have my little pen. This line is going to divide territory for Portugal and Spain because in the late 1400s, these are the two that are going to be the most important when it comes to European exploration. It looks like England is really, kind of coming in last place. And so they divide the territory for not all of Europe, but for Spain and Portugal. It's going to mean essentially that Portugal gets Brazil, which is why they speak Portuguese in Brazil, and Spain is going to get everything else. And then those other countries are going to be left with what might be considered colonial backwaters. There's not like gold waiting for them in New York, right? They're going to have to figure out how to make money some other way. So this is just the definition of the treaty. The Columbian Exchange. Make sure that you are incredibly familiar with the Columbian Exchange. So this has to do with the sort of trading of goods back and forth from Europe to the New World, from the New World back to Europe. So what sorts of things are being taken from the European side here to the New World. Now, if you know anything about European history, Europe doesn't have a lot of stuff to offer. So what they do is they go through Africa on their way. And so a lot of what they're bringing to the New World, they're getting first in Africa, especially later on when we start to talk about the slave trade. Okay. So what are some things that the Europeans are bringing? Well, they're bringing diseases. They're bringing smallpox. They're bringing the flu. They're bringing measles. They're bringing whooping cough. They are also bringing things like horses. We talked a little bit about that with the Native Americans, that everyone sort of always assumes that the Native Americans had horses before the Europeans, and that's not the case. They're bringing coffee beans. They're bringing olives. They're bringing onions. Okay. But coming this way, you've got pumpkins, you've got turkeys, you've got peanuts, You've got corn, right? One of the three sisters. So you have lots of things going both directions. And this is known as the Columbian Exchange. So here are some primary source material for you about the treatment of the Spaniards by the Indians, condemning this treatment. You can see how absolutely horrific these pictures are. This up here says the cruelties used by the Spaniards on the Indians. And here's a quote up here from 1642 from a Native American. He said, "Our fathers had plenty of deer and skins. Our plains were full of deer, as also our woods, and of turkeys, and our coves full of fish and fowl. But these English have gotten our land. They with scythes cut down the grass, and with axes fell the trees. Their cows and horses eat the grass, and their hogs spoil our clam banks, and we shall be starved." So what you see down here in the bottom are these images of the Spaniard mistreatment, and what you see up here in this quote will come later with these descriptions of complete economic and environmental devastation at the hands of the English. So you can really see how difficult it was for Native Americans to continue to subsist on this land. So the Spanish in America. The Spanish had royal colonies. They had very sort of negative relations with the Native Americans. And in terms of their economy, they had two systems of labor, the encomiendo system and the asentio system, which creates a caste system. So we're going to go over all of this. The regions in South America that are governed by governors are going to be called viceroys. So instead of calling them, states, we're going to call them viceroys. At first, the Spanish are going to aim to convert the natives, leading to this Pueblo revolt in 1680, where they decide that they're sort of best used as labor. But keep an eye on this event. Make sure you know what it is. Under the encomienda system, the Spanish government provided grants of land and Indians and Native Americans to individual Spaniards who were supposed to care for the Indians, care for, and convert them to Catholicism. The system resulted in virtual slavery for the Indians consigned to Spanish care, and most died from brutal treatment or disease. So essentially, this is forced labor under the guise of this is best for you because it's going to make you Catholic or it's going to make you Christian in general. As it says at the bottom, to replace Indian labor, because they were dying, Spain arranged for the importation of slaves from Africa, which brings us to this asentio system. Again, my pronunciation is not the best. As the Indians died from disease and overwork, the Spanish turned to the asentio system to make up for the labor shortage. Under this system, African slaves were carried to the Americas, and a tax was paid to the Spanish crown for each slave imported. The system is a forerunner of the triangular trade system. And up here you can see a little bit of what the colonial class system structure was. Peninsulares are at the top. These are Spaniards who are born in Spain. Creoles are second from the top. These are folks who have Spanish parents, but they're born in the New World. And then it only goes down from there. This is the debate that you guys looked at. Bartolomé de las Casas, Sepúlveda over here. All right, let's move on to the French. The French and their royal colonies. Champlain. He's going to create New France with the help of Cardinal Richelieu. Robert de La Salle, 1682. And he's going to explore the rivers, the Mississippi, the Ohio, and the Missouri. And in doing so, comes into contact with a large variety of Native Americans, The Jesuits are going to be the French that come to America for conversion purposes, Catholics, and they're also going to engage in the fur trade. Elaborate trade networks are established along with alliances with Native Americans such as the Huron, and you even see some intermarriage between the French and the natives. It's a very important relationship. The charter colonies that I said to sort of hold in your mind are going to be established by these joint stock companies. There is early native resistance to the arrival of the English in America, but as the population grow, that resistance is less and less, I want to say meaningful, or maybe effective is a better word. And the population growth of the English colonies tends to grow with the arrival of indentured servants. So these are people who come to the New World not being able to pay their own way, sometimes willingly, sometimes not willingly. But these men, women, children, they have to pay off their debts by working for the person who pays their passage until that debt of passage is repaid, or whatever other debt there might be. There's a whole lot of animosity. You have a series of wars fought between the English and the Native Americans. Make sure that you know what these wars are. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. Of course, all I want to do is draw here. So make sure that you have a good understanding of these three. If this is not somewhere in your notes, make sure it gets there. Okay, smallpox. I would consider this one of the earlier forms of biological warfare. The English brought smallpox. If you think back to that Columbian exchange slide, the English bring smallpox to the Native Americans. The Native Americans have no resistance to it. Kind of reminds me of you a little bit of the coronavirus right now, right? Because the immune system hadn't been exposed to it. The natives got extremely sick from it. The British did too. The English did too. But they didn't always die. So they would take these blankets that had been used to wrap up smallpox victims and give them to the natives. The natives would then get the disease from the blankets and die. And sort of shield your eyes here because this is a really brutal slide. But this is smallpox. This is why we don't want smallpox coming back. And again, this is something that you guys have looked at with the debate document, so I'm not going to read through them, but it has to do with different perspectives. Are they sort of these noble savages, which is also a very condescending, negative view, or are they these primitive, brutal savages? Again, a condescending, negative view. So now that we have come to the end here, can you explain the causes of European exploration and colonization in the Americas? If you can't, you need to revisit this, reread some AMSCO. And can you compare and contrast the developments and lifestyle of the Spanish, French, and English colonies in, why did I do this, North America? Any questions? Shoot me an email.